he's like, hey, Twister, son, this horse bucks.
That's full. He pulled out the voice and everything.
Hey, good luck. He's like, this is going to be good. This is going to sell tickets. We're going to dirty chili whop this kid. And that's kind of how the birth of Zeke Thurston went in the rodeo world. It hasn't really stopped since.
So 3 kids. Hardy broke his arm. What the heck?
What was that? Day before. Well, he got his cast on yesterday, so it was the night before. It's been Tuesday.
How did he break it?
Fell off his mom's horse.
His mom's horse? Yeah. What happened?
Well, he just, I don't really know.
He don't ride like his daddy?
Nobody's seen it. Well, he does ride pretty decent, but he usually rides his little pony around, and he's got to gooey gap him to get him going, and so she got done roping, and we set him on her old horse there, and in her saddle and stuff, and I don't know what he was doing. I looked away for a split second. I looked back, and he's yard sailed a boot 10 feet off, and his hat was 10 feet away, and he's laying in a heap.
Say he's got a broke
squalling.
Arm. Said he's got a broke arm, though, and he gets up and he says, oh, I'm fine. Said he wasn't using it all day. And his dad, what you told him to go to the hospital? What did he say?
Yeah, I told him, I said, Dad's got a buddy that's a doctor over here. We'll go have him check it out. He's like, no, I'm fine. I'm not going to the doctor. Starts picking up one of my Calgary bronzes, like the go-around bronze. Probably weighs like 7 pounds, He's doing push-ups on the ground. See, I'm fine. Trying
to be like his dad, bro. Tough sucker. I don't see that many guys really in the world that I'm like, he's got him set up. He's got a great wife, awesome kids. Dude's freaking living. How'd you meet this beautiful, amazing woman?
Man, I'm lucky, aren't I?
God,
lucky.
Did awesome. Outkicked your coverage for me.
Yeah, I did for sure on that one. Actually, mine and Jane's story is a little different than a lot of people's. We grew up 3 miles apart. We've known each other since we were 7, 8 years old, and we're kind of best friends all through school and kind of that whole mushy-gushy thing,
High school sweethearts.
Went off to college together and got married shortly after, and here we are.
What's it like growing up in Canada, other than the big one, cold?
It's cold. These Texans down here they go, what about this crazy weather we're having, y'all? I'm like, you guys don't know weather.
First thing a Canadian's going to say about a Southerner is that y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all. Rodeo with Haven Bet, you got me where I didn't say y'all for, I'm going to say 3-4 years after that, because literally he didn't like it. I was like, it's stupid anyways. I'm not going to say y'all. I'm back to doing it now again, but that was like 2020.
Yeah. Cool. And all our YouTube videos, we started saying bud for a while. I got it from the Canadians.
Yeah, that's a Canadian thing. Oh, yeah.
I've still never got on that A.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want you a Bronc beer, eh?
My dad's from Nebraska, so we didn't grow up with the typical Canadian accent, but you get around some of them guys, it gets pretty thick.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's
there's nothing that better.
It's funny how everybody, just different regions, they're all from similar walks of life, but everybody talks different. Growing up in Alberta was, it was awesome, really. Pretty typical ranch kid lifestyle. We grew up on a cow-calf operation, and was horseback from the time I was old enough to walk, no different than my kids. And, played a little hockey, some sports, kind of did that thing, but mainly I was kind of, everything was kind of directed towards rodeo, and that's kind of where we went.
They say you're a heck of a hockey player.
I don't know. I wasn't.
They said shifty, elusive, can read the ice.
Yeah, probably to you guys, I'd look pretty good. You get up there, everybody plays hockey, so there's some pretty salty kids, and I was always like the smallest of my class, and be playing against 7th graders that had hit puberty with their beards and their mustaches, and there's little 50-pound Zeke out there. So I didn't think I had much of a career playing big hockey. So
when did you quit?
We never got real serious with it. Played quite a bit, like up until we were probably 12, 13, 14, somewhere in there. And then it was me and my brothers, we actually had a contract act, so we went around the rodeos doing that. And so
we're talking about the Thurston Gang?
The Thurston Gang.
Oh, baby. I've heard stories long and far. Let's hear them from the man.
Yeah. Yeah. So that started, I'd have been maybe 8 or 9, and I'd watched Ty Murray's documentary, And I was on there. He's like, yeah, I went, and did gymnastics and everything, and that really helped me with my rodeo. And so I was telling my parents, I kept bugging them. I'm like, I want to do gymnastics, That's what Ty did. And living in Big Valley, we're a long ways from a decent sized center that would have any kind of
do much gymnastics out
gymnastics. Yeah, they're not. We'd have to travel quite a ways, so that wasn't really an option. And so my mom was actually really good friends with Jerry Deuce Phillips, and she was a world renowned trick rider. Anyway, so she's like, well, let's go down there and take some lessons from Jerry. It's kind of like gymnastics horseback, And so we went down there and took a lesson or two, and my brothers come with, and so then it all just kind of, I started trick roping. I'd always liked to rope and stuff, and kind of started trick roping in there somewhere, and it kind of just, my dad was like, hey, let's get a little act going, and so my parents choreographed it up a little bit, and we had these little ponies, or kind of half horse, half ponies, little 13-handers and stuff, and we went and we actually called the Danes Ranch Rodeo there at Innisfail, and Jack's like, yeah, bring them boys over. They can do Sunday's perf. And we'd never done anything before, and we went over there and did our act, and it was just went off. It was a big hit, and next thing you know, it just turned into we were getting hired by everywhere, and pretty soon we were going down to Claremore, Oklahoma, working in North Platte, Nebraska, and so yeah, that took up quite a bit of our time, through those years of our childhood. And then I think when I was about 14 is kind of when we kind of made the decision Wyatt was getting old enough, he was going to go off to college and stuff, and so we kind of just faded out. But yeah, we're contract act in Canada twice, and
twice contract act of the year is what he's saying. 2 in a row, right?
Yeah, I think 05 and 07 maybe. But
big deal.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. It took us a lot of fun places. We met the Queen of England through it. Performed for the Prince and Princess, Kate and William, and seen a lot of country.
I mean, in a way, you're still kind of a contract at. You just do it. It's just a different version, right?
Back then, he was smart. He was getting guaranteed money.
Yeah, I'm not getting paid for sure now.
I want to get into the meat and potatoes here. I called Zeke when we did the podcast. When I called him the other day, Ty said, call him. I said, okay, I'll call him. Zeke, you want to do the pod or whatever? Yeah. You're making a bid to become the greatest saddle bronc rider of all time. So I'm not even going to... Here's the question. Greatest of all time saddle bronc rider. Going to leave it vague for you. What comes to mind when you hear me say that?
I don't know. I never really set out to, I didn't have a number in mind. I just, I always wanted to be remembered as the greatest to ever play the game, and to me, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have the most world titles or the most accolades behind it. Because, for example, Rodeo, he was one of the greatest bronc riders to ever live and never did win a world title. It eluded him, and but for somebody to have that career of 20 NFRs and win what he did, and just never did quite get to strap on that gold, but he's definitely one of the best to ever do it. And like I said, I never put a number on it, but so far we're doing all right.
It's Billy Bauer, he has 5, and then Zeke has 4. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean,
I think so Casey Tibbs in the RCA days has 6, and then Dan Mortensen has 6 as well. That's more recent in the PRCA, and I think he has an all-around title to go with it. So those would be Dan would be he's the man, I guess. But
6.
Then you got Billy with 5, and then I think me, Clint Johnson, and Brad Jermison with 4. So I mean, there's only 3 other guys that got more than me. It's not too bad.
Getting up there, big dog, and you're 30?
I'm 30.
Oh, guy can ride saddle broncs like a long time. What do you think?
Yeah, you gotta. There's longevity in this career for sure, and I've thought about it. I've never really thought that hard on it. I don't know how long I'll go, but I darn sure got some good years left in me, and I'm gonna use them up.
It's gonna be a battle. You want to, you're at the top of your game. You're in your prime. You got Stetson. You got Ryder. You got Cade Bruno, the Hay brothers,
Damian Brennan.
Deep. Yeah, Damian Brennan. The saddle bronc riding is deep and tough.
Yeah, the bronc riding right now is probably, I don't know. I mean, if it'll get replicated like this If it does, I think it'll be quite a few years from now. But the group of guys they got going right now, it's tough to match.
Or young
Brody Crest, Lefty Holman. There's so many that I'm not counting, but I mean, that I'm just those are the first ones that come to my mind. It's deep and
there's
tough.
lots of them, and they all ride good, and it's fun to be a part of.
Whew. So what?
Fun to watch.
Overall, as a bronc rider, what gets you 91, 92, 92 and a half? The horse is a big part, but in terms of you being the rider, what kind of gives you those extra points? What should we be looking for?
I'm pretty lucky to be I can get in pretty funky positions with my upper body and still keep my feet fairly even and keep them going and keep getting them set. And that's kind of been a pretty good tool in the toolbox for sure. But that being said, the better you ride the horse, the better the horse is going to be. Mm-hmm. So in turn to get those, 90 plus point rides, if you're going at that son of a gun and putting it all over him, your horse is probably going to perform better, and that's also going to let you perform better. There's a feel to it. I can't say that everybody has it. I can't explain it to you because you can't explain a feel, mm-hmm. Everybody's going to feel it different, but there's just there's a feel and kind of a timing thing there that you can take a 21 point bronc and turn them into a 22 pretty easily, just with the way you ride.
I'm telling you, man, and you see it in every event. The better you and your horse are in the calf roping, the better the calf's going to be.
Yeah.
The calf looks better with the better guys.
Mm-hmm.
Riley Webb and Chad Mayfield and Haven and the guys that win all the time don't just draw better than everybody. They rope better and their horses are better. I mean,
they got better timing, which in turn makes your horse work better, which in turn sets it up better. Yeah, and it's going to take your middle of the road junky calf and he's going to, hit flat and lay there and let you tie him up, right?
Same thing for you in the bronc
riding. Exactly how it is in the bronc riding. If you're not afraid to, reach up there and put a big spur out one and kind of hold them up and get ahead of them and that horse is gonna buck for you more often than not.
So when you're riding, are you trying to stay as vertical as you can with your chest and your upper body while extending your legs out straighter, or are you trying to lay back farther?
Well, so the bronc riding, it's quite unique because it's the complete opposite of how you're taught to ride a saddle horse, right? So everything is completely different. The biggest thing in the bronc riding is probably your rein is the biggest factor. So you want to have good pressure on your rein, try to keep it out in front of you, and then other than that, your shoulders behind your hips. So your shoulders have to be behind your hips. They kind of talk and teach at them schools. You kind of want to keep a C in your stomach, keep your core engaged, keep everything kind of crunched up here and keep your shoulder. Because as soon as your shoulders get in front of your hips, that's going to shove your hips back. You're going to be hunched over. And then you obviously you can't get your feet, you're going to be hitting them low and you can't get your feet set where you need to.
TV pin, eliminator pins. I don't know if there's a third pin, but TV pin, eliminator pin.
Hopper pin.
Yeah. Okay. When you look at brackets, like San Antonio, for example, we're in the quarterfinals and semifinals. We're always in the finals of every rodeo. It's like, boom, the best horses.
Yeah.
Are the best horses that rare to find that it's like we have to hold them off to all the finals of the rodeos? Or are they, like, how hard is it to make a freaking good bucking horse?
That's a really good question. When you see a really good bucking horse, you better appreciate it because the bucking bull deal is completely different. Everybody and their dog raises bucking bulls. You can find an 86 pointer under every rock. The turnover is a lot faster on them. They're not as round as long, obviously. You get a bull to go to the finals 2, 3 times, 4 times. That's a lot. That bull had a really good career. With a bucking horse, you're 10 years into the making of that thing before he's solid and it can go and be a consistent, reliable horse.
Get Smart with you, the last round of the Canadian finals, was the first time that I ever watched Saddle Bronc, and I was just like, got chills. It's like, that is badass. That
was pretty cool, wasn't it?
Oh, dude, I'm getting chills thinking about it right now. 2022, last round, I ended up winning the title that same day.
Yeah.
I'll never forget watching that ride, man, and feeling that little feeling that crowd,
yeah.
And I've told you this before. They're calling Zeke Thurston, blah, blah, blah. They're hyping him up. This man is just kind of tucking his shirt and he's waiting for the moment to rise like a true showman. I didn't know he was about the Thurston gang back then, excuse me. When I heard about the Thurston gang, I'm like, this makes sense how Zeke Thurston became the legend that he is because the man is hyping him up. Great announcer at the Canadian finals that year. and the crowd starts standing up, the music's coming, and then when he steps on right there, and he's taking his time, and I'm like, dude, let him take all. That judge wasn't going to say nothing.
Yeah, that was cool. It was really cool. I've had a lot of big moments like that. I've been really, really lucky and blessed that way. But it's I've put myself there. I've put myself in them situations. So they don't come around very often, and they're darn sure special when they happen. And yeah, Get Smart was the man.
Yeah.
For some reason, me and that horse had a little bit of mojo going on. I don't know what it was, but I think I got on that horse 11 times. He was the terror of the cabbage patch. Not a lot of guys got him rode, and if you did get him rode, you were going to be 88 to 92, whatever you want.
Automatic.
Write your score down, because he wasn't the biggest horse in the pen. A little fart only weighed 800 pounds, but he was hard as a rock, and he knew his job, and he loved his job. And that horse was, man, I won Calgary on him. I won Canadian titles on him. I won rounds at the NFR. For some reason, me and him just matched up a lot of times, and it went well every time. Actually, I think one time he didn't have a very good day with me at the Canadian finals, maybe back in 2015. For whatever reason, he wasn't feeling it that day. But every other time after that, I mean, that little fart got it on, and I come a spur, and it was he was definitely, that horse paid for a lot of things around our place. Spring planning was another one of my very favorites. I won Calgary on that horse. I rode off in a ride-off. My first year I won Calgary. I went out there, and same thing. She was kind of, I would say probably, she was a little older than her prime. She was maybe a few years removed from winning Bucking Horse of the Year, but she was still, she was a Bucking Jose, and yeah, I put it all over her that day, and then we went into a ride-off and ended up winning it. The next year I come back, and I mean, it's a monsoon 4-round. There's water pouring through the back of the bucking chutes running into the locker rooms at Calgary, and the arena is just a lake. There's about 8 people sitting in the stands, and my mom and wife were one of them, and yeah, I twisted her that day too for another Calgary win. So that one's got a pretty special place in my heart.
Video.
She won a world title for me too, and I wasn't even on her. Jacobs had her, my first world title in 2016. Jacobs had her in the 10th round, and it was basically his to win. All he had to do was get a score, and she was pretty notorious for kind of being, just standing funny in the box. She'd kind of lean down on her front end, and then she'd have a great big rear out, and she'd boil out of there and then buck hard. And so she did what she did, and Jacobs ended up missing her out, and a lot of things had to line up. I had to place high enough in the round, and win the average, and this, that, and the other thing. But all the stars aligned, and here comes Zeke from the back and
gets his first gold
was
buckle.
The champ. Yeah.
The Fort Worth horses, like let's say the best horses they're saving for the finals, is that their only trip at Fort Worth, or do they? Speaking of, you got the cap on, but
yeah, that would have been their only trip.
Would have been their only trip. And San Antonio, all the big rodeos, they just
save them for the short round.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they are that special.
Yeah.
Those kind of horses, they're really, really good. But they stay really good because they get really good guys on them, because they're in those finals and the showdown rounds and the 4 rounds and stuff. So they're going to draw a good guy. They know their job, and they're probably going to get somebody on them that knows his job. So they stay pretty solid that way.
Gotcha.
But probably one of my all-time favorites too is Explosive Skies.
Yeah.
She was only a bronc for 1 year, and I ended up getting on her 5 times, I believe.
In 1 year?
Yeah, well, once 2 years before, she was still a bareback horse, and Pollockville, the hard grass bronc match, biggest bronc riding they got going, and it's in July, right after Calgary, end of July, and so I come into the short round. I think I had second pick. It's pick your poison short round, so you walk out there and you pick your horse, and so I had second pick, and special delivery. He was kind of the man at the time in the bronc ride, and they'd been winning a lot on him. I won it the year before on that horse, and so Case Thompson went out there and picked special delivery. I mean, everything was still in there. Wild Cherry, Tokyo Bubbles. I mean, you name it, they were all in there. And I went up to Tyler Craft and I said, "What should I pick? Like, which one's gonna like? You gotta have the Dragon in the pen." And he said, "Pick that X9." He said that one pitches pretty hard. And Tim O'Connell just won Calgary in the bareback riding on her, and I was like, I'd seen Colby get on her the year before there in the short round. He only rode her about half a jump. And she threw him back into the box before he nodded just about. And so I didn't really know what to expect. And I got on there and, oh my gosh, it was like riding an alligator. But I got her twisted. Darn sure not my best ride on her, but I did get her rode. And then, a year and a half later, she turns into a Bronc. And I picked her a couple more times and then I drew her. Probably my bigged ride, I would say, or biggest moment at the NFR would be the 5th round of 2023's NFR. Had the world champion bucking horse with the reigning world champ getting on her, and she was not a layup by no means. She was hard to get spurred out, and she was hard to ride. She was kind of like Get Smart with about 600 more pounds on her. Oof. And I put it all over her. Won the round, and that one was pretty cool for sure.
Was it 92 and a half? What were you?
Yeah, 90 something.
What did a lot of horses, so you said that was a bareback horse, went to a Bronc, go back to bareback?
Did she go back to a bareback horse? No, she was going to stay a Bronc, and she actually kicked through a pipe fence or did it in the trailer. They're not sure how, but ended up cracking a little, getting a crack in her cannon bone there. This year and going to Lee Park in June. And so she's retired, raising babies, and she deserves it.
Yeah.
But man, that was an incredible horse.
Gotcha.
The other really cool one that I had the chance here this last year was I put on my own Bronc match, the first inaugural Zeke Thurston Invitational, and it went off. It was cool, and it was had my name behind it, so I was wanting it to go good. And we had a few issues with some horses, a couple horses stumbling, falling down. Next thing you know, we've given away 8 re-rides, and I'm like, jeepers, this is a wreck. It's not going good, but I think you have a lot different perspective when you're the producer and not just somebody there getting on or sitting in the stands watching it, so I was feeling like this show needs to be saved. And when I was calling around to the contractors so who could bring some horses for us, I called C5 and they said, yeah, we'll bring you a load or whatever. And they called me back a few days later and they said, hey, Virgil needs another trip in Canada to be eligible for the Canadian finals and for the NFR. Would you want to buck him at your Bronc riding? And he's a bareback horse, He'd been a Bronc for a year and he went back to the bareback riding. I said, absolutely, we're going to buck Virgil at my Bronc riding. Why wouldn't we? Like, it's probably the most famous horse to ever live. So, however it worked out, I drew this little horse in the long round and she had a day, and I win the long round at my own Bronc match. Everybody's like, this place is rigged, So I got first pick. It's pick your poison short round. Well, I can't not pick Virgil. Yeah. I said we can bring him. We're going to have him. So I picked this big white dragon, and I'm back there thinking, gee, I'm sweating it. I'm like, jeepers, what is this thing going to do? Weighs about 1,600 pounds and hard as a rock. And anyways, they loaded him, and sun was going down, and Brett Gardner's doing his hype up, same thing, pumping it up. My own Bronc match, my hometown crowd, and everybody, they're standing on the fence. They're all gathered around, and he bucked hard, and not a really enjoyable style that he had that day, kind of late kicking and uber strong. I mean, strong. It was like being tied to a Mack truck, but I got him rode, and man, it was that was a pretty cool moment. It was that was a big one. Highlighted my year last year for sure.
Is there horses that are badass in the bareback, not good in the Bronc riding, or vice versa?
Oh, for sure. There's lots of lots of horses that can really be good bareback horses, and sometimes they don't like the halter on their head. They don't, it just interferes with them too much, and they won't be the same. There's lots of horses that need the halter on their head and like to, push into it and kind of brace off of it and helps them, it helps them with their balance and with their timing and makes them better. But a really good horse, I think a really good one can go do both. If you have one that special, they're going to be a great bareback or a great Bronc.
Mm-hmm. Virgil,
almost looks easy to ride. And I know that's a crazy statement, but I think it's because he just bucks so pure, at least in the bareback. He bucks so pure, it's almost like he's straight. And I know we talked to Leighton Berry, he said he does some crazy trips too, but when he got drawn this year in the 2024 NFR, I mean, it's like a guaranteed 90, and he just bucked in a straight line. Beautiful. And how dare I say, it almost looked easy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a couple different trips, right? So, like this year out there at the finals, I think Jacob Lees had him the first time he was out and goes 90 plus and wins the round or split the round, whatever he did. And Virgil had a good day. You know, he was up in the air and he was kicking and you know, when the higher they jump, the easier they are to ride. You know, the more time they spend in the air, the more timing there is, especially if they're kicking, you know, following it up with a good kick. So he had kind of that day. And I'm not taking nothing away from him. Like, it was a great ride, and I'm not saying he's not strong, because he is. But then he does have a trip where he won't jump as high. He'll kind of stay a little lower to the ground, but he's still bucking extremely hard, and he'll kick a little bit late. So that's the trip I got out of him. So he would actually he would jump up and then hit the ground with his front feet and then kick after. So you're taking full force, and yeah, he was heavy.
That's why you said it felt like you were tied to a Mac.
Oh yeah, I knew there was going to be some there, because he's just the way he's built, and I've seen him go 1,000 times. You know, I knew there was going to be something there, but there was, after that second jump, and I got a good sprout on him. My feet come good, and I reached up and poked him once, and I felt it all go straight up my chin, and I was like, oh geez, there's more horse here than I thought, and it just kept coming and coming.
We're talking about rank horses. So show him, see what he thinks about this.
This Cowboy channel here, that's the video. Cowboy channel posted this and collabed with the contractor.
Okay. Oh, this is Sankey's horse.
Yeah, you see it?
Yeah, that's a really good horse. That horse looks a little droppy right there, though.
Man, he looks like he's going to be big. Like, I don't know nothing about it.
He's vertical there.
Yeah,
near.
That horse bucked right there. You know, that horse is obviously a young one. He's a colt, but you know, that horse has got good size to him. He's kind of a tall, rangier looking horse. But yeah, Sankey's they'll show up with some good ones. That one, he wants to do it.
Could you have stayed on that horse right there?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I knew the answer to that.
That's a good horse, though. Like, that horse is really jumping up in the air and following it up with a lot of kick, but he's also kind of coming up with his front end a little bit more at the start. You really feel that in your saddle. You know, you can feel your swells start dropping, you know?
Gotcha.
And that's that'll stretch a guy out, you know? It kind of wants to get you,
right,
you know, kind of wrung out, and you want to try to stay down and stay small, you know?
Gotcha.
But that's a good horse.
The high kicking, to us who know nothing about it, looks rank. Like, that's, you know, in our mind, that, wow, what a ride, what a horse. Does that make a difference, the angle of where they're kicking their back legs on your score?
Yeah, it for sure plays into your score. Absolutely. But it actually, the higher they kick and the harder they kick, the better it will feel to you. It's the ones that are kind of tricky that a lot of people don't understand. Like, it maybe looks easy to maybe somebody that's maybe not as educated in it, but like a horse that'll really jump in the air, but he doesn't really, what we call, break over, you know, so he'll really jump in the air, but he'll kind of stay flat, you know, and then he'll kick out. Those horses, like in the Bronc, the bareback riders love them because there's not a lot of power to them, and they're real flashy and they look really cool. In the Bronc riding, there's not a lot of front to back motion, so it feels like everything's kind of coming straight up through the middle of the seat of your saddle, and so it's kind of hard to get a lot of send on your feet. So it kind of feels like you're having to do a lot of the work yourself. But still, I mean, those horses are cool. They're cool to watch.
Right. 18-year-old. So you talked about colts and taking them to kids to practice. 18-year-old Zeke, how many colts you getting on, or how many horses are you getting on a week, a month, a year?
Man, I got on everything. Everything. You run it in, I was going to get on it. I started probably too young, for sure, but I mean, they weren't going to keep me off of them. So it was obviously a very controlled setting, and I had the greatest teacher you could have at home, you know, and my dad, and he did a lot of schools, still does to this day. He puts on lots of bronc riding schools, and he taught me everything I know. So we'd go to them schools, and I'd just be the little kid running around that wasn't quite old enough to get on, I'd ride the bucking machine and, just annoy everybody there and do my deal. And I kept bugging them, let me get on. And finally, I think I bugged them enough till they're like, all right, I had my own little saddle and stuff, and I'd been kicking around in it. And so they had this old paint mare. She was a great big old fat thing, Her name was Yugatuk too. She would more or less just kind of lope around there and put her butt in the air a little bit, and so they strapped me on her. I actually had to punch another hole in my back cinch because her belly was so big. My back cinch didn't fit her. But I got on her and she bucked around there and she made a corner at the fence and I fell off and thought I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And then I got on another one, I think that weekend. I was 14. I was pretty young. I put on them schools now and I look at even a 16-year-old kid that's maybe small and kind of wafy. And I'm like, you're not getting on. There's no way. What were my parents thinking?
Honestly.
Right.
But they weren't going to keep me from doing it. So, very controlled setting and stuff. But it's when I didn't get on a ton of them, it was obviously a pick and choose. And then there was actually a ranch out of Saskatchewan that had this old little paint mare, and she was built like you should go heel or rope calves on her, except she was ugly black and white paint. And, she was bucking off all the ranch hands out there. So she was real gentle, halter broke and everything, So they sent her to us for a practice horse, and I got on her. I don't know how many times I got on her. Never did make the pickup man on her. She, first time we bucked her, she's like a 22 pointer. I mean, stayed in the box and kicked the back of the chutes about 3 times and sent me over her head. But I kept getting on her. After that, once we bucked her a lot, she would kick really hard, but, stayed low to the ground, took a lot of jumps, but I'd get on her all the time and try to ride her, but I never did make the pickup man on her. I'd ride her to the end of the arena every time, and then she'd turn and I'd fall off. But
now, do you try to make the pickup man every time? I see Dawson jump off and land and do his deal, and it's ranked.
Yeah, I do.
I think about my knee when he does that.
Yeah, I used to jump off. I used to think it was cool. I'd go out there and put it all over one and jump off and think I was King Tut, But I did that one year at the Montana Circuit Finals. I was coming into my rookie year, and the circuit finals is in January, and so I went there. I ended up winning the circuit finals, and I think I was 19, and I rode this horse at Kessler's. It was a really good horse called Breakaway, and I made a really good ride on her, won the round, and I jumped off, landed on my feet, and I stepped in a hole or landed funny, whatever I did, but just tweaked my ankle over, and tore it all up. It was bad. Broke a little bone off in there and stuff. And so I got into all the winter rodeos because I'd had a really good year through the Montana circuit and won pretty good money. So I got into all these big building rodeos and the whole winter I was they bought me a brace. Tandy's like, oh, get this brace. It'll fit in your boot and everything. And I bought the brace and it didn't fit in my boot. And so then I was taping it and I hated taping it. It felt funny. I didn't like it. So it was just that cured me from jumping off. That was not something I wanted to deal with anymore. So they got pickup men out there for a reason.
You didn't have you some higher boots. That's
yeah,
the
there you go. Lace them up.
Yes, sir.
I think they want our boots to fall off, though, just in case.
2 questions.
Yeah.
Is there a record they track for ride percentage? Follow-up question. Do you hold that record from your 2023 season?
I don't know if they track that or not. Surely that stat's out there somewhere, but I'd be a pretty good candidate for it, I would think.
What percent? How many?
We talked. You tell them.
Well, I don't know. That year I fell off 2. I got bucked off 2.
The whole year?
The whole year. I was sitting there interviewing him in 2023, and he's like, yeah, I have at the time when we did the interview, you'd only been bucked off 1 horse the whole year. It was September.
Yeah.
I got bucked off more than that year.
Keep in mind, I don't go to, I'm not the guy that goes to 100 rodeos. I like to go to 65, You go
to 65 rodeos, 4-time world champ.
Yeah, I like to pick and choose, go to the good ones, win where I can.
So you probably get on close to 100 horses, 80,
yeah,
80 horses
a year.
Each year's
different for sure. Yeah, it'd be close to 100 horses most years with, 4 headers, 5 headers.
So we're talking like a 98% riding percentage.
Yeah, so I think they bucked me up. Both of them were Calgary horses. I got on a horse, Zakika Bits, and I've been on that thing probably 8 times. I've won a lot of money on it. It's a great horse. I had it in Hermiston. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm gonna win top 3 probably. He kind of stands funny in the box, and he's like really squatting down on the front end. I called for him, and he wheeled out of there pretty hard, kind of beat me out of there. And I got a good hold of him though, even though I was a little behind. And then my feet kind of come funny, and he smacked me in the butt and threw me off. And then I had a first round at the Canadian finals that year. I had a horse called Cloudy Skies, and same thing, he leaves the box really hard, and he bucked everybody off. It was an eliminator pen. I don't think he'd hardly been rode that year, and same thing. I just reached up and spurred him out, and he kind of gave his head back, and my feet rolled up his neck, and he threw me off. And
I mean, it's a rarity.
Fast.
It's a rarity to see a Zeke Thurston buck off. I mean,
trust me, it happens. It happens.
I'm getting a little more knowledgeable. All the horses he's mentioned today, I've heard of.
So.
But not the last one, Kipitz. Is that Yippee? Is it related to
Zaka Kibitz?
And it's related to the Yippee or no?
Yeah. So all the Calgary horses, any of them that got the same name, first or last name, I guess. So any of the Bubbles or Kibitz or whatever you have, the Friskies, all them horses, they all come from the same line of mares. That's the way they keep track of them and stuff.
That's cool.
I seen that video last. What horses went in the arena at San Antonio last night? Where did you see it or no?
Which horse? What are you talking about?
They sent a bunch of colts out there in the arena. I didn't know if you'd seen it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was sitting up there.
Were they Survey horses or Calgary horses?
Though I don't know. I didn't even. I just took a little iPhone video. I'd have to watch it. I'd have to watch it. But I was just.
But like last night, so there would have been a Y8 out last night, Yuppie Bubbles. Mm-hmm. Well, then there was a U8, Uvid Bubbles. Well, those horses are, depending on what stud they're out of. I don't know which studs they're by, but they're out of the same mare. Maybe by different studs, but that's how they keep track of them.
You buddy with Dawson this year?
Mm-hmm.
Does it change kind of every year for you? Or?
No, me and Dawson, we've been doing this since 2019.
Wow.
So when I first started, so that year I was talking about when I was a rookie, I come down, I was going to these big building rodeos, and crazy story actually. So I'd rode here in San Antonio, and I made the semifinals, and I rode in the semifinals and did pretty good. But I missed making the short round by like just a few $100. I was whatever they took out of their 4, and I ended up 5th by just a few $100. And so I was entered in Tucson over the short round. So I was going to drive over there with Chad Furley and some other guys, Troy Krauser and some of them boys. And there was a snowstorm kind of West Texas out through that way. And the roads were shut down and couldn't get out there. So those
It's not like Canada. They shut everything down.
Oh, yeah. No, we're closing the doors, locking her up if they see snow. So those guys are like, we're just not going to go. And I was young, and I wanted to go and couldn't afford not to go really, So I bought a plane ticket out of, the flights were going. So I got on a flight like real early in the morning. I flew over to Tucson. I got to Tucson and hadn't slept all night. Got there, got on my horse, afternoon perf, made a good little ride on a Bar T horse. I was 78 or something and ended up 3rd in the long round. So I made the short round. And so we're hanging out at the beer stand or whatever there after with everybody that's over there, sunshine. It's beautiful Tucson weather. And the draw comes out, and they had a horse back then that was literally killing off just about everybody that got on her. Killer Bee. She hadn't hardly been rode at this point, and she'd been in the bronc ride and been in the bareback ride, and nobody, people are terrified of this thing. And here little old Zeke draws her, and I'm like, goodness gracious, what is this thing going to do to me? And she just come off being the rank horse at the NFR for 2 or 3 years in a row. And so I didn't sleep any that night either. So I'm running on like 48 hours of not sleeping because I got Killer Bee drawn. I didn't sleep a wink. I'm peeing in my boots. And I show up to the rodeo the next day and just pacing back and forth, getting ready to do what I can on old Killer Bee. And it's really funny. They loaded all the horses and they load her up there. Terrible short round that day. Like they bucked, I think there was literally 2 rides out of 12. I think they bucked everybody off. And they're going down the line, they're bucking them all off, and everybody's they're getting dirted. And Benny Butler, he comes down there and he looks at Killer Bee and he looks at me, and I don't know if he'd really associated the last name Thurston with my dad, because Benny and my dad were good friends, but I don't even know if he knew my name. He just seen some kid had Killer Bee drawn, and he's like, "Hey, Twister, son, this horse bucks. All right now, this horse bucks. Hey, good luck.
That's pulled out the voice and everything.
Full well knowing or thinking that I am not going to ride this thing. He's like, this is going to be good. This is going to sell tickets. We're going to dirty chili whop this kid. And Killer Bee turns out of there and she gets it on. And I rode her 91 points or whatever it was, arena record at Tucson. And it just blew up from there. Yeah, that was crazy. I won Tucson by like 12 points or something. And so I went Tucson and being a kid, no money, nothing. So I asked Dusty Tuckness, he was bullfighting there. And I said, hey, you going back to Texas? I need a ride. And he's like, yeah, I'm just by myself, jump in. So we jump in his truck and, just to pick up, no camper, nothing. We throw our gear in the back. I think Josh Cashel was with us and those two sat up front and Dusty was headed to Houston because that was, they changed the perfs on Houston so that George could have the Sunday, no rodeo that Sunday, So George was going to do his concert. So Dusty had to overnight it to get there. And I was staying with some friends just over here at Leesville, John and Tammy Rothwell. And so I'd brought a couple horses down and was just kind of great family friends. I'd known them forever. And so I was just staying with them while I was going to these winter rodeos. And I was like, well, just drop me off on I-10. I can get John to come pick me up or whatever. And so we drove all night with Dusty back here and John picked me up there and went back to John's house and Dusty went and fought the first perf at Houston, and I get a call the next day, and they said, hey, would you like to come get on in Houston? We already had the first perf, but we're short a bronc rider. This guy didn't show up. We need somebody to fill in. Dusty had given him my name and my number. He's like, I got your guy. He's this kid that just won Tucson. He strapped Killer Bee. So I go over to Houston, and I get on the 2 because I'd missed the first round, and I ended up making it back to the semifinals. Well, I make it through the semifinals and I make the short round. Well, I win the 12 round in the short round. I got on a horse called South Point of Sutton's, super famous. And I go 89 or something and win the long round or the 12 round at Houston, and I make the 4 round. And I draw a little horse called Lunatic from Hell. It was a bronky little buckskin that nobody really knew at the time, He was brand new, and so was I. And we were standing back there waiting to get on, and Taos Muncie, I think Jesse Wright, and maybe Cody Demos, I think were the other 3 in there. Me and Taos were on the same delivery, and we're, bouncing around back there waiting our turns to get on. And I looked at Taos, and he had been traveling with Isaac Diaz and Cody Tatum and Tyrell Larson. And I knew Cody pretty good, and like they'd packed me around as steer riders and different things when I was a kid. And I knew Cody was kind of slowing down and winding down. And so I looked at Taos and I said, hey, you got an extra hole to go, this year. I said, I'd really like to go with somebody that kind of knows what's going on and kind of show me how to rodeo. And he said, absolutely. He said, more the merrier. And I was like, all right. So we rode off in the 4 round, and darned if I didn't win Houston on Lunatic from Hell. And Taos called me the 2 days after I beat him at Houston. He said, you still want to go? I said, yeah. He said, all right, I'll give me your card number. I'll enter you at the California rodeos. And so he started entering me up, and I flew over to New Mexico and lived with Taos till about the end of June. And we rodeoed our butts off. And for me winning Houston, this was back when Calgary was still invitational. I got an invite to Calgary because I'd won Houston. And I went to Calgary. I got on my first one. Had a horse, Bridwell's called Cow Camp, and I made a terrible ride on him. He didn't have a very good day, but I actually lost my rein at some point in the ride, or at the end of the ride. I was up there doing the wacky wavable inflatable arm tube man with no rein, and Bob Tallman used me as an example of how not to ride broncs on the teleprompter. He's drawing and stuff.
Bob will do that, Bobby T. Man,
that's so embarrassing, and well, we go through all of Calgary, and darned if I don't win Calgary the first time. This is all my rookie year.
Same year. Tucson, Houston,
all
Calgary.
The same year.
This in 4.5 months.
Killer Bee kicked it off. And that's kind of how the birth of Zeke Thurston went in the rodeo world. It hasn't really stopped since.
There you go. That was 2016?
That's a story.
2015.
Yeah.
Wow.
10 years later, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Calgary or Houston, did they count? Neither of them counted, did they?
Neither one of them
Neither one counted. Did you make the finals that year in 15?
Mm-hmm.
Still makes the finals first.
I made the Canadian finals. I made the NFR that year. Had a terrible Canadian finals. I didn't win a dime. Showed up, wanting to prove I belonged, and just tried too hard. Actually broke my saddle at the Canadian finals, and I showed up to the NFR riding a saddle I'd never rode before, and stuff. And I didn't do terrible, but I darn sure didn't do very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I won about 50,000 or something over the week and stuff. But got my first NFR out of the way, and it was a whirlwind. And I was ready to get make it back. My dad always told me, he said the bridesmaid year is the like your second year is always the hardest. People think oh, I made it once, it's easy, I'll make it back. So I didn't want to be that guy. And that was actually the year that the whole ERA thing had went down in 16. So we just rode at Rapid City, and we got a call saying, hey, you guys are turned out all these big building rodeos, all the winter rodeos. And we're like, what the heck for? Well, so a lot of these guys had shares and different things in it, and it was all going to court between the PRCA and the CRA and all this stuff. And I didn't have any shares in it. I never signed anything, but they'd used my name in court. And so I was like, what the heck am I going to do? Like, I can't be turned out of these rodeos. This is not, this young guy, and I didn't do anything wrong. And here I'm getting crucified for it. And so funny enough, I actually called Tom Glaus, who was the state attorney in Wyoming, did not run the PRCA. This is 9 years ago. Called Tom. I'm like, what should I do? My dad and Tom were college roommates. So I called Tom, and I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, well, here's your options, blah, blah. You could get a lawyer and this and that. But there's a clause in there that, if you're in a lawsuit with the PRCA or whatever at the time, that you can't compete anyways. Well, the ban that we had was like a 30-day ban or whatever. So I'm like, well, by the time we try to do anything like that, I'm going to be able to rodeo again anyway. Mm-hmm. So I just sat my time out, I guess. And then the winter rodeos were over, and it was kind of springtime. And so me and Taus we went to rodeo, and rodeoed hard. We went to I've seen every rodeo in Texas because of that year. I went to Glen Rose, Bay City. You name it, we did them all.
Really?
And just trying to catch up, win some money. We didn't get to get on it all winter. And so anyways, however it goes, we ended up winning Calgary that year too. Second year in a row. And then made the finals, and that's when I won my first world title.
And that's in 16.
Yeah, that was a nice slap in the face to those guys too, because
for the PRCA with the RA deal.
Yeah.
You showed your dad, huh? Wasn't the hardest year you got your gold ball?
We got to do a podcast on that ERA year. Everyone keeps talking about it. We got to
get Bobby Mode on, huh? Or Trevor Brazil or something.
Yeah, those guys were the big push behind it.
God.
For sure.
Which Bobby still does the WCRA, but
that kind of evolved, into that deal.
But rookie year made it. Houston didn't count. Calgary didn't count. Which, imagine you're a Canadian kid winning the biggest Canada rodeo as a rookie.
Yeah, you have 45. Yeah, backyard 30, 45 minutes for you.
As a rookie,
it's a couple hours, but
I
grew up. We performed there. We grew up doing it all there.
You probably were. When Bo won it.
I was so happy for Bo. That was the coolest thing I've seen.
Man, that's when the Canadian Prince was born.
Yep.
The Canadian Prince, baby. We're the Canadian king. Yes, sir. He's the king right here.
The cousin. Heir to the throne.
On the horse you sold him, this mare's like 5 years old, and y'all go partners, right? Tell me what happened.
Well, she wasn't 5 years old. I don't know how old she was, but that was one of the little horses I had down here in 2015. I brought a couple horses down here, and she was just a colt, that little mare. And when I was staying down here with John and Tammy, she was one of the horses I had down here, and so I kind of got her going and stuff, and did a little pen roping on her and tracked the dummy around and whatever, and Bo was still just, he's the guy that finished her out, in the roping and stuff, but he was just young, like high school type kid, and he's looking for a horse, and, I was going off rodeo and riding broncs, and I said, hey, I got this little mare, like, I think she'd work, and she's not very big, but she'd be perfect for high school, and stuff, so Bo got her going. He actually started healing on her. He healed on her for quite a few years, and then he kind of gravitated towards his calf roping and got pretty serious about that, and so he started roping calves on her, and she worked awesome for them little short scores and them small calves, and here we are 8 years later or whatever, and he wins Calgary on her, so that's pretty cool.
That's a cool story in itself.
No, but the first 2 years, Calgary didn't count, Houston didn't count, make the NFR. Second year, you don't go to any of the winter rodeos, and you win your first gold buckle. I mean, talk about the level of dominance needed to. I mean,
and 17, you won it too.
17, I had
Ryder wins it in 17, maybe.
Ryder won it in 17, so I actually had a really good year that year. Won Calgary for the third time in a row. Won some big stuff, and had probably one at that time. Like, I had a really good regular season. Obviously, the money wasn't the same, but I went in second. I had a chance for season leader, and I darn sure tried to get it. But Jacobs got me by, 6,000 or 7,000, whatever he did. But I tried hard to win that season leader, and I didn't get it done. But I went into the finals in a really good spot, and I was thinking this is gonna be really good. And I went out there the first round and placed. I was 85 or 6, placed good, maybe third in the round that first round, and then I got sick, and I don't know what I got, but you can get COVID 10 times because it was nothing on this. I laid in that. I never went and signed. I didn't do anything. I laid in that bed and shivered and shook for 2 weeks straight, and it was miserable. I didn't win a dime. I didn't want to go to the rodeo. I didn't want to get on, and there's nothing worse than being out there in Vegas trying to ride for a world title. And oh man, I was under the weather bad, and yeah, it was pretty funny actually. That was when my wife, she just first got pregnant with our first kid, with Lucy, and so she was also sick. So we were just sick together out there. But I didn't win anything. It was rough. So rough NFR. Actually, I think I did place one more time on. I got on wound up a Benny's, maybe the 5th round or something. I think I placed on him, but other than that, it was pretty rough finals.
Wow. 3 in a row, Calgary.
First 3 years of rodeo. That's
Dynasty.
Amazing. How many? So you won it how many times?
Calgary 3 times. Yeah.
You haven't won it since then.
No, I've ended up second, maybe 3 times.
I bet you
this past year too.
Yeah,
that was that bronze. Hardy was. I'm not hurt, Dad. This is broke arm. So the Prince, I was talking to him on the way over here. He told me about John Rothwell. Then you brought up John Rothwell. He told me a story about you roping calves there. He said he's never seen a wreck like this in his life.
You got to hang around me a little more. I get a lot of wrecks.
I was kind of nervous when you said bring your boots and spurs. I'm like, man, I better eat my weenies.
Have your rope with James, but it's too windy today.
I figured we'd be doing some ranchy stuff.
Windy.
I was like, be a cowboy.
Yeah, I got cowboy up. Tighten up here, Tad.
Where's my starch jeans?
No, what was I doing? The one I think he's probably talking about is I had just a green little horse down here, and actually ended up selling it to a girl that's just down the road over here at Gonzales. And she's been kicking butt on him in the college rodeos and stuff. But anyways, I was starting him in the calf roping, and I didn't put a keeper on my bridle, so I just had it run through my neck rope. So I had a little extra slack there, and I was roping these little kind of ratty Coriani looking things, and I rode up there and roped, and he was a little free, and I kind of pulled my slack back here, and then I let go of it. As I started to get off, well, my coil, the back of my slack had went around the back of my shoulders. So I was between the rope and the horse. And when it come tight, it dirty chili windered me down in front of my horse. And it was good. But
he said Zeke hit good.
Oh, yeah.
It said the slack got behind him. Yes. He pitched it up and got the slack behind him.
It knocked the wind out of me. That one was good.
I wish I had a video of that, man. God,
I might have a video. You could put it up.
Oh, baby.
I have to go back in the old archives.
We'll have to see. We'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
This year, 2024, we're out there watching, and is it correct to say that it just didn't seem like you drew very good? It felt like you were always trying to fight. And
yeah, that's for sure. I drew really good. Like I won 100,000 in the first 3 rounds. I won the first round, placed third, and then won the second round, and things were off and rolling like they do. And I was like, dang, they're not going to be able to stop me. And then I kind of just hit the middle of the road on some draws, and there's not a lot. And this year was for sure the most uneven I've seen the horses out there in a long time. And I don't really know what happened. Like we picked the best we had to choose from, but there was just, there's some stuff that either didn't have their day or maybe shouldn't have been there, or maybe they're too old to go now. I'm not real sure, but it was and we didn't really have like anything with a wow factor, we didn't have a Virgil or a Get Smart or an Explosive Skies, like a Black Tie and All or Nothing. They're really good horses, and I'm not taking nothing away from them. They're awesome, but they're not going to buck off any of them guys out there at the finals, but we didn't really have that one that's like, the big bugaboo in the room that's, hard to spur out, and you also might hit the ground at the end of the gate. We just didn't really have that this year. So, and I'm not sure what happened, but
it sucks though
we'll
when you're
try
trying
to tighten it up and make it better for next year.
You're trying to watch and you're like, Zeke's won 3 in a row. I mean, we have a race here for a championship. I don't know. It almost seems it's just a sucky part of the sport. Just part of the sport. Where
it's part of it for sure. And then I had some that I probably should have ate up that I normally would have and didn't. Just things didn't roll right, and it's just the way it's gonna go. But you got to draw good for sure, and I'm not putting that on all the horse either, because I could have done my part a little better a few times, but the result's the same. You're gonna come back and try it again next year anyway, whether you win or not.
For sure. You've rodeoed 10 years, you've won 4 gold buckles. What does it feel like that? Do you feel pressure, or how do you feel about being the man? If Zeke Thurston doesn't either win a gold buckle or right up there for one, people are like, what the heck happened to Zeke? How does that make you feel?
Rodeo is a funny sport that way, because there's a lot of expectation on you to do good. And then once you've done good or you continue to do good, they either want to see you fall short, or if you do fall short, they wonder why, and it just doesn't happen. It don't happen that way. Michael Jordan had more missed shots and free throws than anybody else, but he also had more game-winning, buzzer beaters.
Exactly.
Babe Ruth struck out more than anybody else. Had a lot more home runs. It's just how it goes, man. Sure. It's sports. It's competition. It's easy for you to sit on your couch and eat your nachos and watch me on TV and say that, but
it's true. They don't just send that thing in the mail with your name on it.
No,
they
don't.
And they don't just put your name down in Vegas either.
They're hard to get. They're damn hard to get, and they don't. They don't come around very often. For what I've accomplished is truly amazing. And I don't take any of it for granted. I may never win another one, but at this point, it's just. I will always be Zeke Thurston, and I'll always, be true to myself. And I find a lot of motivation, and we're very family oriented, and my kids, they go a lot, and they go a lot of places, and we're lucky enough to have this little place down here, and they get to come and spend it with us, and they're buddies, my little boy's buddies with all the bronc riders and the calf ropers, and he dapping everybody up. He's one of the boys, and that's the coolest thing for me. And like Lucy, she's old enough, she knows the bucking horses better than most rodeo fans. She knows them all, and she keeps she keeps tabs on it, and it's that's pretty special. That's kind of where I find my motivation nowadays, is just showing them that through a lot of hard work and a little perseverance, and if you have a good attitude and a good head on your shoulders, you can go a long ways in life.
I mean, your dad taught you how to bronc ride. Did he teach you, to become the bronc rider and the person that you are? Did it just happen? I mean, obviously you have a great family, but how did that happen? How did you become this amazing?
Yeah, my family's very close. We've always been a close family, and my mom and dad have always tried to give us the best, life possible. We didn't grow up with a ton of money or, endless funds by no means. Things were tight a lot, and so we, but we made the best of it, and my dad's he's a great person. My mom is too. They couldn't love us kids more, and they didn't care if we were bronc riders or followed rodeo or you were, a lawyer at some office. They just says, whatever you want to do, you go out there and you be your best at it and put your best foot forward. And so I was just cowboy crazy, I guess you could say, just like Hardy. I was everything cowboy and still am, and that's kind of the route we went. And I owe a lot of that to them, for the way they raised us and how we were taught, and with good values and what truly matters in life.
Mm-hmm.
Winning's fun and rodeoing's fun, but it doesn't last forever, but people will remember whether you're a good person or not, and they'll remember how you made them feel when you talk to them. So my dad always says, it's cool what Zeke's accomplished and stuff, but what makes him proudest is when somebody comes up to him and says, hey man, you raised a real good kid there,
Mm-hmm.
And that is truly what matters. And so I think as long as you do that, the success and the winning will come along with it.
That's as good as it gets, man.
I mean, it's hard to keep going. I mean, the winning and then the morals, family. I mean, that's a bow on top.
Be sure you get a picture right there. He's got his wedding ring, and then the next finger over, he's got some sort of cartoon Band-Aid.
Yeah. We were at Legoland yesterday for Hardy's birthday, and the kids got these little stuffed animals, and I went to cut the tag off of Lucy's for her, and I tried not to cut her and ended up cutting myself. So all we had was a princess Band-Aid, so that's what I got.
In the same shot, you got his nicotine, whatever it is, his figs.
So you wear a gold buckles? Are they cased up?
No, I wear one. My wife wears one. Like there's two at home.
Some people case them. Some people wear them. I heard a story the other day. I forgot to tell you. I haven't told you this.
You got to wear it.
I heard a story about Roy.
It's a gold buckle.
Heard a story about Roy. He said, they're driving down the road. He used that gold buckle to pop them Corona cans. 5-ounce Corona beers.
I can't say I haven't opened a beer can with my gold buckle either. Beer bottle.
A Bronc beer?
A Bronc beer, yeah.
A Bronc beer. I don't know if them come in bottles.
Oh my God. So I've heard about your grandma. She loves Bronc beer at the brands. Yeah. She goes at them.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all get big family gathering and y'all brand and everything up there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like branding it at home, probably from, I would say Kansas up north. It's kind of a social event, anywhere you have winter, I think, because everybody's been cooped up all winter and stuff. And then you're obviously busy and busting your ass as hard as you can to go through the, calving season. And that can be rough depending on the weather. And it's a lot of work, especially up there where it's cold. Try to keep calves alive and water liquid and different things like that. So it's, the green grass starts popping and the flowers are growing and the birds are chirping, everybody starts branding. It's they're big social events. All the neighbors show up, all the family, the friends, and everybody gets together and help brand your calves, and you go vice versa, help brand the neighbors, and they're a lot of fun. So
that's pretty cool. That's on my bucket list for sure. Go to a
branding. So, yeah.
Yeah, you need to.
I know I'm gonna embarrass myself, but man, that's freaking. That's on my bucket list. I better say the flanking. The dragon, man. I've never done
you can
it.
drag some calves.
Nervous. I'll be more nervous then than I will be freaking roping for 100,000.
You gotta heal a baby calf.
Surely I can do it. Surely, but no, that's on my bucket.
Bo, he had a good Snapchat. I got this running bred colt out here, and I was wanting to drag some calves on him at the branding there last year at our branding. I wasn't going to take him to anybody else's branding, but he's a pretty big motor on him, and he was not ready to do that. But I told my dad, I'm like, keep everybody out of the branding trap. I want to see if I drag a few on this horse. And I get in there, and he was not taking it well, and pretty soon we're bucking across the branding pan. Bo, I think he had a video of it, but he was making fun.
I gotta make a list of these videos.
I think he was doing a takeover that day for, I don't even know who, somebody, but he's putting it on his story or something. He's trying to embarrass me.
Big Coop told me a story about you as a kid having a cow or something, and then next thing you know, you didn't tighten your horse tight enough.
Yeah.
What the heck happened?
that was a good one. Yeah. So my dad was gone to some rodeo with his board, I think. And I think my mom was gone too. I don't know. But so Bo's dad, my Uncle Jimmy, so me and Coop we had to go, we were riding around and going to doctor some stuff. And I wasn't very old. So I had my little pony. His name was Runt, and he was an ex chuck wagon or pony chuck wagon horse. So like them chuck wagons that they had the wreck with in Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. So those are like half thoroughbred, half, little pony quarter horse type things. So they're not full thoroughbred horses. And, or this one wasn't anyways. He come from this pony chuck wagon guy, and he come off the track. And so when I started trick riding on him, this little fart was, you hear the announcer and you couldn't make this little horse run any harder than he would. Like he would fly around that arena. I'd be up there trying to do my wedding ring with the freaking 45-mile-an-hour headwind because his Runt was going so fast. But anyways, we did everything on them ponies. We always had lots of those little things around, or horses. Like everybody would, because I got two other brothers, and we're all cowboy kids, and so everybody would buy something out of the sale barn or pick some horse up somewhere, and they'd have little kids, and they'd be like, oh, let's send it to the Thurstons. They'll ride it for us and get it broke for our kids, So we were constantly riding these little picklehead dinks and pea brain ponies and things around. So anyways, I had Runt, and he was a good little horse, and he was awesome. But me and Coop went out, and we had to doctor this old cow for pink eye or foot rot or whatever it was. And I had this little saddle and it fit him awesome. It was a great little saddle, but I thought I was too cool for school and told my dad I didn't want to ride that saddle anymore. So I jerked one of his old saddles out of the, it was ranchier looking and cooler looking. And I thought, oh, this one's, but it didn't fit that pony grade. It was too big, it was kind of big and the bars were a little wider and stuff. And so we get over there and we're just roping this coop. He ropes this cow. And I had it sucked down and I had a breast collar and everything on him. I had it sucked down on him tight and everything. So coop, he ropes this old cow and I ride in there and I heel her. Get her by 2 feet and dally up and back an old runt up. Well, we're trying to runt probably weighs, I don't know, maybe 650, 700 pounds. He's not a very big little horse. And this cow was a large, full-grown cow. And I was kind of backing uphill. And we're trying to get her stretched out. And just as she goes down and get her stretched out and she lays over and runt, he's still pulling backwards. And pretty soon he just right out the back, shucked the saddle, and I was still sitting in it with my dallies on the ground. And Runt was headed back to the barn. Coop got off and doctored the cow, and we let her up, and then he rode back, caught my pony, and off we went. Doctor some more.
That's hilarious, man. God. Coop said, he said, I heard Zeke over there, Uncle Jimmy, my saddle's sliding.
Yeah, we started going up. He had a pretty good wither on him, too. It just started going up that wither, and all of a sudden he just slumped his head down, and off he went. I was just sitting there on the ground, still dallied up and everything. I got 100 stories like that from growing up, though.
The old ranching stories. Yeah. Those are the good ones, funny. Bro.
We'll have to do a part 2 next time we see him on ranching stories.
Yeah,
dude, I want to go up there and vlog a branding session.
Yeah, you should. That's you guys will be up there.
When do you? June?
We usually do it like 1st of June, end of May.
Dude,
you guys would be up there for like Grand Prairie and stuff. Do you go to Grand Prairie?
I haven't been to Grand Prairie in a long time.
You haven't?
But it's beautiful. We could probably work something out right there.
What
that
else
might be a nice little
then?
Getaway vacation. That's kind of by my birthday. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
There's lots of people. There would be lots of Brandons you could come to.
That weather then is so amazing. That would be a good time.
It would be. But then again, July 1st or 2nd, 2023 in Panoka, 50 degrees and a splitting cold wind.
But it can do that too. It can be like this in the summer, or it's 75, beautiful and sunny.
Yeah, for sure.
You just never know.
Man.
But speaking of
dress, you hang out with some Canadians that get dressed right. I would rather that than 104 degrees.
Yeah.
In Texas.
Yeah, you just have to dress for it. That's all.
Yeah. That's the thing. The Northerners, man, they're always prepared. They're always dressed right. I get cold. I don't have the shit I need on.
Yep, exactly.
Rogan tells me that every time about skiing. He goes, I sweat. I'm like, I'm freezing.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing you need, first observation, denim on denim. Denim shirts, on denim. Denim on denim is big in Canada. When I go to Panoka Rodeo, all the old guys at the slack.
You see a lot of red cows in Canada, too. You driving across there, you see a lot more, to me, in my mind, which I don't know nothing, more reds and Charolais than you see down here. I don't know why, but.
Yeah, like they get a lot of the British breeds are pretty prominent, but then they're not afraid. There's lots of like Dutch and Swiss descendants up there. They get some of them exotic. A lot of like, you get Simmentals and different things like that. But we just run black cows. We use Charlotte bulls on them.
It's funny if you go to the origins of rodeo. Saddle bronc is the mainstay. It's how you broke horses.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bull riding. Some idiots or something. Let's go try to ride that bull, baby.
Yeah, I always wondered where that comes from.
Yeah, what the origin of that was.
I still want to see freaking video of you.
When I was in high school and I was riding bulls, my granddad in Nebraska, he'd always tell me, "You need to quit riding them bulls. I ain't never seen no real cowboy ride a bull through the pasture."
That's a clip right there.
He's got a point.
He does have a point.
But some guy had too many beers and
that's more like the bull ride's more like the WWE monster truck jam type. Like it's got the fear factor and people are there to kind of maybe see a wreck and
NASCAR or whatever. I mean,
yeah,
it's cool.
Do you think people actually actually breaking horses? You get a wild horse out there. I mean, you get on them and break them the same way they did 100 years ago.
Yeah, 100 years ago, them guys were ranchy. They, you got something caught, it was probably, we start them nowadays at 2. They were doing it on 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds, had never seen people, you'd blindfold them, tie a back leg up so they couldn't kick you, blindfold them so they couldn't bite you, get a saddle on them and crawl on, and you probably out in the wide open, too, when you're doing it, so,
I've seen some old videos of it.
They were a little tougher back then. They rolled their own cigarettes and had a few more scars than we do, I think.
That's wild. The only so bull riding, people realize how hard it is. That's the only thing I think with the saddle bronc is you guys make it look so easy. People don't realize how hard it is. You ride 98% of them. They don't see the best guys getting bucked off. So sometimes I think people will kind of overlook how difficult that is.
Yeah, it's more of a it's a timing and balance thing, right? And it's a lot of finesse, and like that's why they say it's poetry in motion, or like riding a rocking chair, because that's once you kind of, not that you ever have it figured out, but once you kind of halfway get to where you can kind of do it, that's what it looks like, right? And that's how it's supposed to look. But when it goes bad, it can go bad.
For sure. Yeah. It's shocking when I see, you or one of the best guys buck off. It's like, whoa, what just happened? I mean, it never happens. But it's beautiful.
Oh, it happens. It happens for sure. Stay tuned.
It was amazing.
That was spectacular, bro.
No, we're just telling stories and talking, right?
We're going to have us another one.
Yeah, let's do it.
After you win another gold buckle.
I got a lot of stories.